Okay, so today I want to talk about something I discovered this weekend. It is a mineral referred to or called Shungite, and it has some very interesting properties which I'm just starting to process. I've had a pendant for about 2 days, and I've noticed already some interesting benefits. I've had bursitis in one of my shoulders for over a year and a half, if not. I have been doing some yoga to help with mobility in the shoulder area, and that has actually been helping. But I just noticed over the last day or so that whatever remaining tension that was there seems to be gone. I also have a condition of sleep apnea, and I've been able to mitigate the lethargic the lethargic feelings I would get in the morning if I sleep on my back, or yeah, sometimes I get headaches and just feeling a lot of grog in the head. Now, I met someone who told me that sleeping on the back is actually what's causing the problem. So I mitigate the effects by lying on my side, but every now and then I will end up on my back. Now, I was wearing the pendant when I went to bed on the first night. Somehow I ended up on my back, but I woke up without any headache, which I found very interesting. Now, that's just the first off experience. I mean, it could be a one off. I don't know. But there's a lot of discussion going on about Shungite right now, and this is what I'm contributing to. And for me, everything happens for a reason. Nothing is arbitrary in life. And for instance, for me, we live in a world of words, and words have meaning. For instance, there's a gentleman who discovered resistance in electrical currents, and his name is Ohm, O-H-M. And when we measure resistance in electrical currents, they're measured in ohms, which also happens to be the creative sound of the universe. And so when we're creating these vibrations within ourselves, we're creating a resistance within ourselves. When we sit in the stillness of meditation, we're creating a resistance. And that resistance activates the circuitry within this temple, the human body. But his discovery was very interesting because his name is Ohm. Coincidence? I don't think so. There's another gentleman, I believe he's German or Swedish. His name is Angstrom, and the Angstrom unit is what was it named after? It's a scientific. Let me just. I'm mumbling my words here. Hold on. I believe it's used to measure wavelengths of light. Yeah, that's what it is. And of course, if you break his name down, Ang is the root of angel or angle, and Strom means current, but you also have Ohm in here as well. So this is a very interesting. So a lot of these people we're finding who invent things, their names are related to the things that they invent. Donald Trump, casino magnate. Bill Gates, with respect to the computers. I don't think these are coincidences. So, that being said, I acquired a few pieces of Shungite, and so far I'm starting to see some interesting benefits from the having wearing the pendant, just feeling a sense of calm, physically but also mentally. And you know, I have a daily meditation and a daily yoga practice, but I think this is very complementary to that. So one of the things I wanted to discuss is the origin of the name Shungite. So Shungite is extracted from a place in Russia, a town in Russia called Shunga, in a province called Karelia. And Shungite is a black, lustrous, non-crystalline mineraloid consisting more than 98% carbon. All right, so interesting. So the word Shungite comes from the town or the village that it's mined in, called Shunga. All right, so Shunga is in the Republic of Karelia. Shunga is a large village in the Zionese Peninsula, and it's in Russia. And apparently it's the only place in the world where this mineral is found. And some people believe that it might have been a meteor that crashed a few billion years ago and left this deposit. Apparently, the townspeople can drink water from the lake. The Shungite purifies the water so that it basically creates a vibration harmonizing itself with the earth. So water, anything that comes within its sphere of influence becomes harmonized to the planet's frequency. So that being said, what I found very interesting is the word Shunga. Now, if we go, in Japan, they have Shunga. Now, Shunga has to do with eroticism. However, if we look at what traditionally this word is translated in Japanese, the word Shunga means picture of spring. All right, so for me, the Bible talks about God being light. 1 John chapter 1 verse 5. What is God? God is light. Well, what is light? Light is photon. And what is photon? Photon is light, or it's an intelligent messenger particle. And if you look at the definition of angel, angels are messengers of God. Therefore, they're messengers of light. Therefore, they are photonic messengers. So angels, when the Bible speaks of angels, the Bible is speaking of photon. Now, the thing with photon is photon polarizes at a specific angle. All right, so now you're seeing a lot of interesting dots being connected in terms of what's being said in Scripture and what we are learning about in quantum science. Now, the word picture, in the definition of the word Shunga in the Japanese sense, means picture of spring. So, picture, if you look it up in the dictionary, means image. And it also means a photo. Now, at the time that this word was invented or used, I'm sure they didn't have photography. However, anything relating to image or imagery, image, there's mage, or that's where the word magic comes from. This is relating to light. And so this is interesting because now you're looking at the word Shunga coming from a definition that means something sourced or related to light. And spring of course is a flow of life, a flow of energy. And what people are experiencing when they are healing with Shungite is they're feeling access to energy. They're healing their bodies. There's all sorts of interesting stories that are coming out right now with their people's experience with this mineral. So I found that very interesting. Now, in yoga, in Kundalini yoga, which we practice, or what I practice and which I teach, we have a term called Shunya. Now, in Sanskrit, it's sunyata. Now, what it means is creating its emptiness or voidness. Now, when you sit in the stillness of meditation, you create a resistance. That's one thing that helps activate this divine energy, this flow of this divine energy within you. But you create a void by zeroing out the thoughts of the mind. Now, Yogi Bhajan describes this zeroing out process, so he often talked about it as a most elevated state of consciousness called Shunya, where the ego is brought to complete stillness. A power exists there. Okay, a power exists there. We do not hassle or try to act. With folded hands of devotion, infinity acts for us. In that state of zero, if we can focus our mental projection on a clear intention which acknowledges our higher self and the creator within us, it will be so. All right, so what's very key about what he's saying here is in a state of zero. So coming into a complete state of stillness to reach our higher state of consciousness. So there's a phrase or a term that's used, be nothing and become everything. And I found this is very interesting because, of course, in the word Shunya, you have the root of the town named Shunga. And you have Shungite, which is a dark matter made of carbon, which the human body is composed of. And when you come into meditation, you're entering a state of stillness, a state of darkness. Usually meditation is great. It can be done, of course, in the daylight. It can be done at any time, but it's always good to come into a state of darkness when you meditate, because the pineal gland is a photoreceptor, and it its functionality is assisted by sitting in darkness. That photoreceptiveness. So that's very interesting. And what else is interesting is that in the description that I'm going to show you from a clip from Nancy Hopkins from Cosmic Reality, she talks about the molecule in Shungite, which is referred to as a fullerene. Now, energy being the cause and form being the effect. So energy flows and creates form. And so this fullerene creates a form, has a molecular structure of that of a soccer ball. She talks about this, but then it creates this 0 point. And I found that very interesting because it's not a coincidence that Shunya is about creating a voidness, creating a zero. And Yogi Bhajan often speaks of creating a vacuum within yourself. And in the description of a vacuum, because you all must know one theory which I want to share with you. There is no such thing as a vacuum on planet Earth. It can only be caused temporarily. It's a very scientific law which I liked very much when I studied physics. The idea is that a vacuum can only exist temporarily because the universe immediately rushes to fill in any void. So, what's interesting about Shungite is that because of the molecular structure, it's constantly filling itself in with, it's connecting to the quantum field, and it's constantly filling itself in with dark matter, dark energy, or photonic energy. Now, 90% of the universe is dark matter. That has been proven, which means that the physical reality that we are experiencing right now is 10%. And of that 10%, our five senses experience far less. If I blow a dog whistle, your ears won't pick it up, but the dogs will. So even within the framework of 10% of the physical reality, our senses limit us to a small fraction of that experience, which is why they refer to the five senses in yogic philosophy as the illusion of Maya. They are there to deceive you from the true reality, which is why when we practice meditation, we want to zero those out, limit the mind of thought, bring everything down to a state of zero so that you create that vacuum so everything can fill in. And in doing so, it activates this apparatus, this temple within you. It activates the mind and the components of the mind that function, but don't function to their best capacity. So meditation is a great way. And there's silent studies. Look it up. There's a silent study that was done on rats. It's on the Huffington Post. This was done in 2013. I think the Huffington Post released the article in 2014, and it talks about how they exposed a certain group of rats to the volumes you would find in an urban setting, and then they exposed another group of rats to complete silence for like 2 hours a day, and in doing so, the rats exposed to the silence, their hippocampus started to expand, their memory improved, and so there's a really interesting connection to silence, and of course we all heard the term sound or silence is golden. So finding and people love to go to nature to enjoy the stillness and the silence of nature because it's very healing, and it actually helps reinvigorate the body, regenerate the body and the mind. Well, yeah, I don't know if there's any copyright issues, but I'll just, if you just queue up, if you go to this video, Shungite, The Countless Benefits with Nancy Hopkins, and listen from 1229, she's going to give you an explanation of the fullerene and the 0 point that creates. Anyway, I'm completely blown away by what I've discovered. And, so you have Shungite from the town of Shunga, and then you have Shunya. And whoever named this town Shunga and discovered Shungite, this doesn't happen for nothing is arbitrary. This is like a cosmic event here, and I think this is going to. Oh yeah, so. Shungite also has the ability to mitigate the harmful effects of electromagnetic fields. We're being bombarded by them left and right from our computers, from our electronic devices, microwaves, from our mobile phones, from the cell towers, from whatever radio thing is out there. And apparently now there's a term referred to as electronic smog or EMF smog. And Shungite, what it does is its sphere of influence, it rotates on a clockwise direction, whereas a lot of these EMFs that are being radiated, they're kind of in a scattered, discordant form, and so they're not in harmony with our magnetic fields. They're in discord with it, so they're creating harm for our electromagnetic field. And there's a lot of people with a lot of sensitivities to these things, and there's a lot of concern now with 5G being rolled out because they're bringing the cell towers closer to the surface, which means that we'll be exposed to higher levels of electromagnetic radiation from these cell towers. And Shungite mitigates the effects of these electromagnetic frequencies that are damaging to our electromagnetic field. Because it spins the molecular structure at an extremely rapid pace, and it taps in to a source of energy that is from a quantum field, which is coming from dark energy, which is 90% of the universe. So it's got virtually a limitless supply of resource that it can obtain its energy from. Whereas a lot of the systems that are being used in our 10% physical reality don't have that same source, so they can't combat it, and so they can't survive, and they can't. Well, they can survive. Sorry, I don't know if that's the right word. They're just overwhelmed by the energy field that Shungite creates, and so therefore. If you're wearing Shungite, it just creates this field around you, working in a clockwise direction, and it helps mitigate the effects of damaging electromagnetic fields. That being said, that's pretty much where I'm at this point. I will tune in a little later, a few weeks from now, just to see how things are going with my experience with Shungite. And that is it. If you have any feedback about your own experience, please feel free to share. And, well, I guess I'm going to sign off for now. Thanks. Have a good one.